I'm back. What did I miss? Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Rev Dan and I'm a vicar in the Church of England. And I've been away for a couple of weeks. I've been on annual leave. I've gone and done a couple of amazing things, which I'll talk about a bit later, but just as a heads up to what it was. I went to the ARC conference, A Better Story. It was amazing. And then I also went to Kenya to meet a bishop and go around his diocese, which was also so inspirational. I'll get into that at the end of this video. But we're here to talk about that big thing and catch up with what's been going on in the news. We are in the midst of General Synod. I had wanted to put this video out yesterday, but I had food poisoning and I was not well at all. I started to feel better today, thank God. So we are doing it today. It's day 2 of General Synod. And for those working it out, yes, this is recorded today on the second day of General Synod. And for you others who are working it out, I woke up about 4:30. I started work at 4:45 this morning and I've worked all morning. So I'm on a break, an actual break to record this. So sorry, people, it has to be said. So what's been going on over the past couple of weeks while I've been away? Well, it's, as I said before I went away, we're going to have to and froing, and we're going to have things coming forwards and backwards. And in a sense, as I was in Kenya, and thank God, most of the time out of reach on with data and things like that. So it was nice to be away from the news just for a short while and seeing what's going on. But it's still there. We are catching up. So let me catch up. So the kind of first thing I just want to speak about is this letter from the Inclusive Evangelicals. A letter signed by 600 evangelicals. Now, you know, the other side, the libs, are saying that the Conservatives are putting pressure on the General Synod and the House of Bishops. And well, this could be construed to be exactly the same. People putting 600 signatures onto a letter to send it to the General Synod before their meeting. You know, and I don't want to be horrible about this in any way, but this isn't like big news here for me. A letter signed by 600 evangelicals, inclusive evangelicals, come on. You know, I want to see how their inclusivity is on a range of issues. I don't think, you know, they're saying they're evangelical on everything except for same-sex marriage. I think that's what they're saying. But it'd be great if they put up on their website where they stand on things like the death of Christ on the cross, atonement theory, the resurrection, the authority of the Bible, abortion, all these other ethical issues that we have out there, you know, termination of life early. All of these, where do they stand once they line all of these issues up? Are they evangelical on all those except for marriage? And on marriage, they're saying, no, it's okay, but we stand with the conservative evangelicals on all of that. Or they just saying we are evangelical. It's using language, and I said this before I went away. It's about using language and using the term evangelical. Anyway, why is it not news really? Why is it not a big thing? It sounds like a big thing. Well, we know that you know, a lot of the Church of England is very liberal, and so I'm not surprised by this. Actually, I would say the number's quite low, to be honest, because there's a lot more. I would expect a couple of thousand, perhaps more, to sign this letter, because there are, you know, amongst, you're going from archbishops to bishops to archdeacons to area deans to clergy to laity, you know, all the way through the Church of England. There's very liberal people who want this, who come out and say this. So I would expect the numbers to be higher, but this is kind of an expectation, right? We know this has been pushed on for a long time, so we know there's a lot of people out there who want this. So 600, you know, I don't know why people didn't sign it. Did they not sign it because they, like Conservatives, feel that there's a pushback, like the ordinance? But that's the thing, see, where I would say is newsworthy is now over 160 ordinands have signed a letter to the archbishops and bishops. Now, that's out of the ordinary. Like, this would be considered for me, well, you could say that we knew something like this probably would have come, and 600, well, okay, fine. But 160 ordinands who are training, putting their name to a letter to the archbishops and bishops, that's out of the ordinary. That's not a natural process that we go through. And if you want to watch my interview with Matthew Porter, where we speak about this, you can watch it here. And also, really newsworthy is the 12, it was 11 when I recorded the video, but 12 bishops dissenting from the statement from the House of Bishops. That's you can watch that video here. That's absolutely newsworthy as well, because this doesn't happen. The House of Bishops doesn't split like that, and especially in a way that says, look, other bishops, you're not following process, you're commending prayers where you shouldn't, you're not following the legal or theological advice that was given to you as well. So it's actually quite massive here. That's a story. So, I don't want to sound like I'm dissing on this too much, but it's really not a huge story. Same with the 55 bishops coming out in favour, the other day, and saying we are wanting this to happen. We want to go for it. Of course, we kind of had an indication of that before. The leak from the House of Bishops and the College of Bishops, when they voted, there was more people who voted for this to continue, as it were, than actually signed that letter by numbers. So it's not unexpected. So this is the to and fro, and this is where it gets kind of political, and this is what's going to be happening over the next couple of days. So we are here. So those are kind of just getting up to where we are. Where are we now? So let's get into it. So after yesterday's first day of the Living in Loving Faith presentations, as it were, and questions, I've been said by a friend these 4 themes that are emerging, which you can see. The first, the church is in a period of uncertainty, but in that uncertainty, it is important to offer those in same-sex blessings the opportunity to come to church to receive God's blessings. What happens if the church resolves the uncertainty by returning to God's words is also uncertain. But in a sense, there also is certainty. The Conservatives are saying, and the traditionalists are saying, we're certain that we don't want this, and the progressives and liberals are saying we're certain that we do want it. There is certainty. We are certain where we're going, but they're saying because we are not agreed, there is uncertainty. So that sentence came out a lot yesterday. The church is a period of uncertainty. The bishops have no intention of sharing the detail of the legal advice on which they have based their decision, and this kept being asked yesterday loads. Show us the legal advice. Now, the situation is you've got the House of Bishops, the House of Clergy, and the House of Laity. The House of Bishops have seen this legal advice, right? But the House of Clergy and Laity haven't. And so the House of Bishops have presented this paper saying, well, we've seen the legal advice and we've considered it and we've written this paper for you. And so you can consider the legal advice. You can work it out, or, however they're going to do it in that paper. But the House of Clergy and Laity is saying, we want to see this legal advice. We want to see it as well. If you've had legal advice, why can't we see the legal advice? And there's this discussion going on that the House of Bishops is, again, using power. It's not a fair process, it sounds like, if you've got one house saying, well, we're going to consider the legal advice, but you can't. I think that the House of Clergy and Laity should surely be able to see that legal advice, or go to the same team and say, can you produce legal advice on this, which should be round about the same legal advice. So, but the detail of that legal advice is not going to be shared. I remember back to the dissenting bishops here, they said the legal advice, they weren't listening to it. It was, the legal advice is saying basically, it sounds like you can't do it. So number 3, that bishops will commend the prayers of love and faith in December, which it will, no matter what, well, unless it required more than half the bishops to vote against themselves, which they won't. So it's going to be sometime in mid-December. Mid-December, that's a great date. Thank you, by the way, for those of us who, by what you say, our conscience, don't want to do prayers and love and faith right before Christmas, right as we're getting lots of people through our doors. So when it hits the papers, or when the first one's done that weekend, and we're going to get people through our doors on that Sunday, and they're going to say, are you going to do this just before Christmas when we got the maximum amount of people in? We're going to say, a lot of traditionalist conservatives are going to say, no, we don't do that, we can't do that, and it's going to go around our parish. It's like, why mid-December? Why at the busiest time of the year, when we're getting so many non-Christians coming into our church, where it's evangelist time, and to proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ, that this is going to be put up, and people, as it's been said to me, homophobe and bigot, because I have a red line and I say that I can't do this. You're asking me to do something that I believe goes against God's word and I cannot do, yet I get called homophobe and bigot, which, is yet to be explained to me how I can be homophobic and bigoted, because I can't bless something which I don't believe that God blesses, but still get called that. So that will not, and by the way, many other people as well that I've been told. So, not the greatest time to do that, but that's what they're going to do. And the bishops have returned to the idea of introducing standalone services on an experimental basis. So an amendment by the Bishop of Oxford has been tabled, which has already been backed by Archbishop York and Archbishop of London, and also the Archbishop of Canterbury, which I saw in an article today, but then I realised, and we'll get into that in just a sec, of how he actually backed it. So how did he back it? So he backed it by saying that in his own speech, just before Archbishop of York got up and said, I'm going to back this, Justin Welby acknowledged that he was in complete agreement with everything said by Archbishop Stephen. So by being in complete agreement, he also being in complete agreement with the resolution by putting forward by the Bishop of Oxford. Now, to be honest, I'm not going to say too much, because I am in the Diocese of Oxford and I'm not going to put myself out there that much. But the amendment basically, it says to consider whether some standalone services for same-sex couples could be made available for use, possibly on a trial basis, on the timescale envisaged by the motion passed by Synod in February 2023. So the prayers of love and faith were going to be commended here at this Synod and then implemented in December. And the standalone services, there was going to be scrutiny and a due process going from now and starting in, I believe, in February Synod until 2025, where there would have been a vote and the due diligence would be done. But this amendment says, well, let's just start them now, or on the timescale that the motion was passed back in February 2023. For some standalone service, possibly, it says, possibly on a trial basis. And so you could have standalone services happening, and I don't know what that looks like, but it could happen. Now, I don't honestly know whether this gets through. By the time this video goes out, this might have been voted on, to be honest. So you just might be watching old news. But it does seem that we all thought this process was going to happen in a certain way when the papers came out back in October, that the prayers were going to be commended and then a vote taken in 2025. But this kind of changes a lot if it goes through. And the archbishops and the Bishop of London backing it gives it a lot of kudos in that sense, that if they back it, it might sway those people on the fence. Well, if they're backing it, Archbishop of Canterbury, Archbishop of York, Bishop of London, then maybe I should back it. And so you don't want to be cynical about all of this and the processes, but it's a curveball in that sense, and we'll have to wait to see what Bishop Croft says about this in the implementation when he presents it again, which is preceding this video, and if it gets through. But this could be a big thing because it would start now. There would be a lot of liberals who are very happy about this. But let's jump for another article that I saw, which is really interesting, from Premier Christian News. Same-sex blessings debate driving congregations to seek property outside the Church of England. So Kingdom Bank, I think I saw it in the article, have contacted at the Renew conference, actually, which is a gathering of evangelical Anglican churches, and surveyed them, and it revealed that 72% of respondents believe that the living in faith, love of faith process is likely to prompt churches to acquire buildings outside the denomination, which is quite interesting. I think what's happening with a lot of churches is that they're, because we don't know who truly owns the church buildings, and whether it is the incumbent, like the vicar or rector in charge, or the actual Church of England, and that might go to court. I think it might be tested should all this go through. They are using their money to either buy other properties outside or set up separate charities outside the church to be ready to leave, to kind of jump ship in that way. This is happening. So the other thing that isn't being offered as much as people would like is what they call differentiation, where we stay as the Church of England, but we're very different. So we have different bishops, different ordination processes, different ways that we use our money and things like that. That is not being offered. They talk about pastoral something, which isn't as far as people want to go. So churches are going to do what they want to do, and so they can. Church congregations are absolutely at liberty to go and use their money to buy property outside. They are, those church congregations can set up their own charities and do anything like that. And so, but it is a sad state, because instead of keeping within the Church of England, which many people want, it will start to fracture by itself, because if there isn't that true differentiation, then people will just go. People will just go. So we're going to see what's going to happen over the next this afternoon and the next day with all of this, and where the church stays. Now, if you do watch the live stream or catch up on it, also watch for language. I picked up on something quite interesting. There's a lot actually that's going on there, and I'm on a Facebook group, and there's a lot of disgruntled people about when there was a lot of questions being asked that they weren't allowed to be answered and things like that. But there was one point where one of I won't say who it was, but one of the speakers said, for some, it was too far. This talk about same-sex blessings. For some, it was too far, but for many, it wasn't far enough. And, and it's slipping these words and language in. So for a small minority, it was too far, but for many, it wasn't far enough. And it's like, well, no, I absolutely, that's not fair. But that's the language being used, and that's where we are. I said again before, this would be a battle. It is a battle, and we just got to pray for those at General Synod on both sides of the argument. To be honest, I'm sure this is quite a weighty thing. It's a big thing. There's a lot of emotion used up and anxiety, and we are called to pray, especially into these situations, especially when it's difficult, and especially when we don't agree with the other side. We're called to pray for the other side, and especially pray for them to come and to acknowledge that the Bible is and the doctrine is handed down to us as it is, and it can't be changed. But for the situation that they're in, at the moment, it must be quite tense, and there has to be a graciousness about it as well. But we are fighting here for the doctrine of the Church of England, even though they're saying it's not about doctrine. And that's probably one last thing I'm going to leave you with is the one thing that I really saw yesterday was about offering the prayers of love and faith. If people wanted to offer them, there's questions about what if they're in an active sexual union, the two men or the two women, and the Church of England is saying, well, we're not assuming, we're not asking that, we're not going to just assume that they are, and you kind of think, so it's that, so you don't ask or they don't tell, but what if they are? Surely there is a duty. If I meet a couple and they're going to get married, I'll say, are you actually in a sexual union at the moment? Are you doing that? And which most times they are. And I'll encourage them and say to them, I think you should, from now until the time of your wedding, you should abstain from that, because you're entering into something which is so important. And sex is for marriage and inside marriage, by the way, which the bishops and archbishops were acknowledging yesterday, and really stating that sex is inside marriage. That is the doctrine of the Church of England. And so I would encourage them that that's where sex belongs, inside marriage. That's what we're believing, and you're coming to a church before God. And so abstain from now. So it's a genuine question that we would ask. It also enriches their marriage. It gives them that time as well of not having sex, and that kind of abstinence and waiting for something that's just so special. There's that whole thing about the wedding night, and so if you're doing up until that point, let's be realistic, people do it, but if you're going to ask a heterosexual couple, why can't you ask a homosexual couple? I mean, if you were doing the prayers, but they got this thing of, we're not going to assume because of sex outside marriage. And I thought, wow, that's a big thing that you just, you kind of covering your eyes, ears, that kind of like, I don't think you can do that with integrity. I mean, remember, we got to go before God to answer before this, and the Archbishop of York said yesterday, acknowledged that. So it is a big thing we have, and we have to hold that. But we see where we go. So that's an update on that. But let's get on to what's happened over the past couple of weeks, because that is far more enjoyable, and that's the future. That is the future, to be honest. So I went to this, which is, let me just get my screen up. So this is the art conference. If you have got the app and you were invited and you wanted to connect with me, hopefully you can scan it there, or you can find me on the app, Dan Beasley. And it was all about a better story. And it's called the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. You can go find the talks on YouTube. They were fantastic. I was so blessed because we walked into the room. It's a massive room in London next to the O2. And they said to me, go forward. They wanted to fill it up for the front. So I ended up right on a table really just straight in front of the stage. It was absolutely fantastic. And to hear and see all these great thinkers speaking just truth, which was great to be in this environment. So I went down with my collar, right? And I was walking around in this, because I went down as Rev Dan, YouTube. And I was walking around, and people were just smiling and acknowledged me and being very nice, and you don't always get that in the real world, actually. And there's this respect there, which I've never felt in such a place. It was amazing. And everyone there was like-minded. We're all on the same page. I wouldn't say we're everyone there was all right leaning, but everyone was there saying the way the world is at the moment and all this wokeism and this liberalism, it's gone way too far, and we need a better story, and we need to tell our stories. So, there was people from politicians. I sat next to, and I've got all these cards here. I sat next to a guy who was an abdominal surgeon. I met a person from the European Parliament. I met a guy who led the Senate in the Italian Parliament, and he subscribed to my YouTube channel as I was there. It's like, wow, this guy's, met so many different people, so many different countries. There were 76 countries there, which was really amazing because it's showing how liberalism is coming in and affecting some of these countries. Again, like Macedonia, I was like, wow, surely Macedonia isn't like that. He said, Dan, it's coming in. And so it's talking about how we as conservatives, or conservative leaning, or conservative sympathetic in that sense, but of that mind, can tell a better story where we come from. We're great at facts and figures and telling the truth. Same with conservative evangelicals. We're great at telling the Bible and which verse it is, but we got to tell a better story. And so they focused on many different areas. And again, I implore you to go watch the video, and or the videos, because there are many on YouTube. Very inspirational, really inspirational, and it was such an honour and a blessing to be there, to network. You didn't have to stand there long before speaking to people, that people would come up and speak to you, and so it was just great, and like-minded people. You didn't have to start off explaining yourself about where you are or where you stood on the position. We're just like-minded, and I would say that conference, although it wasn't a Christian conference, felt like a Christian conference. It really, I spoke to so many Christians there, and it felt like a Christian conference. So look out for ARC, the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship, and what they are doing and what people are going to be doing. I think it's really, really exciting what's going on there, and it's going to be the answer to the World Economic Forum and what they're pushing out. It is amazing how many people are already saying negative things about ARC, which is, it's like, wow. I saw stuff coming out when I was down there, and I was like, I was just with amazing people, and they would talk about right-wing people, in that derogatory sense. And they were just normal, everyday people from all these different walks of life, just with a common cause now of stopping this liberalism and this wokeism. And one of the biggest things actually was talk about children a lot. Talk about children a lot, to stop our children coming through systems which is just absolutely destroying them. So like I said, do watch the videos on that. And it wasn't just about, in our schools, about stuff online and what they're doing online with social media and things like that. It was really quite eye-opening and really, really inspirational. So more will be coming up about this ARC in the future, which will be very good. So next thing I went to is I went to Kenya for a week. I was invited out there by a bishop who came over here last November and wanted me to go out. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Just went again to a diocese who were and their clergy, who were all on the same page. They were all starting from the same place. There wasn't divisions like we have in the Church of England. They were all just wanted to preach the gospel, to move forward. I'm sure they don't all agree on things, but they're going to be not as what the church I'm in at the moment, which is very divided. But they are all wanted to move forward with the gospel. They're all there to help each other. They get on so well. I got to speak with them. I got to preach for them, and I went around and saw great missional activities and great different activities, such as they're building a conference centre and a hotel. They got a hospital which missionaries planted over 100 years ago, which they're trying to reinvigorate and build back up and get to a better standard. I went to a couple of the schools there, a boys' school and a girls' school, because they're doing their exams at the moment. I went to an orphanage. I went to a church. I don't know where the church was, but I went to a church, and it's their 100th birthday there next year. And so there's all these amazing people and amazing things going on, and really inspirational. And with the conference centre hotel thing and the hospital, the bishop was getting those up and running and to a standard to make his diocese, which isn't a rich diocese, sustainable, to be sustainable for years to come. And why? So his clergy can get paid a stipend, a full stipend. Not all of the clergy get paid a full stipend, and his only desire is to do these big projects, but it will enable, once they're done and income starts coming in, for his clergy to be paid a full stipend, and for them to be able to plant churches and have money for clergy, again, to receive a full stipend. And his heart was just for his clergy, his heart was just for mission. It was amazing. He met so many clergy. I saw him interact with so many of his clergy and how they interacted with him. It was just like truly inspirational. And this guy is so visionary. I would say that one day he could be the Archbishop of Kenya. He might just say no, because he would have to move to Nairobi, and I don't know if he wants to move to Nairobi. But he is such a good guy, and there will be stuff again coming up on this channel about that as I want to make this channel bigger than it is, as well, and moving forward with the community that is here to start looking outwards and helping. And you know what? A lot of people said, oh, you go to Kenya, even Africa, and they're going to ask for money and they're going to want money. Not once did he ever ask for money or for me to get him money. The only thing he kept asking for when we went to these different places is please pray. Please pray. And sometimes it's just please pray now for these people. Please pray now for this situation. We stop and pray. And not once on his mind was not about money. It's like, well, God will give us the money for these. He said, I don't know how. Some of these projects are quite big. But please pray and take the story back. And, talk about Ark. This is a better story. This is a church that is just fully for the gospel, working together in the diocese for each other, with a bishop who's leading so well and is so humble, and was always there to serve me, is always there to make sure that I was okay, and with his wife and his kids. It was absolutely amazing to be there and to see how the Kenyan church operates, or at least this diocese. So it's really inspirational to come back. It wasn't inspirational to come back with food poisoning. That was really a downer. I was like, woo, I'm on a high. And then I just, was so ill. But I am better now. And we are where we are. And, I think God is gracious, and he's given me those two experiences which will stay with me and which will continue in my ministry, whatever that looks like. And as we move forward, and especially with this stuff that's happening at General Synod. So I will be doing an update after General Synod. It will not be tomorrow. I got PCC tomorrow evening. So after the General Synod's finished, I will be going to that and preparing for that. So I will do a video for Thursday speaking about what's happened at General Synod and my reaction, as always, to that. See you Thursday.